Have you ever felt like failure is standing in your way? Or maybe you stopped trying because of repeated setbacks. If you think failure is the end of the road, think again. In this video, I'll share with you 6 powerful ideas from one of the greatest thinkers in personal development, ROHN, who believes that failure is not the end but the beginning of the road to success. You will discover how failure can be your greatest motivator, how it's an opportunity to discover yourself, achieve your goals, and improve your skills. We will discuss how failure helps you develop flexibility and a growth mindset, and ultimately guides you to the right path towards your dreams. Stay tuned until the end because you will uncover secrets that will change the way you think forever. Failure teaches you what success cannot teach. How do we learn from success compared to failure? When we achieve success, we feel pride and happiness, but we often don't spend much time thinking about why we succeeded. We celebrate, enjoy, and then move on to the next step. Failure, on the other hand, forces us to stop and think deeply. Why didn't it work? What can we change? What's the next step? These questions are what make failure a powerful learning tool that success cannot provide. Failure reveals mistakes we didn't see before. When things go well, we might think our approach is perfect, but failure reveals blind spots in our plans. Maybe we lacked a certain skill, weren't prepared enough, or used the wrong strategy. These lessons make us return stronger and more aware in future attempts. Failure tests our abilities and reveals our true selves. Success can sometimes be pure luck, but failure is what reveals our true commitment to our goals. When we fail, we have 2 options. Either we give up or we try again. Those who give up were never truly ready for success in the first place. But those who rise after failure prove to themselves that they have the determination and will to continue the journey. Examples of how failure teaches us unforgettable lessons. Thomas Edison tried more than 1,000 times before he succeeded in inventing the electric light bulb. If he hadn't failed in all those attempts, he wouldn't have discovered the correct way. When someone asked him about his frustration with failure, he replied, "I haven't failed. I just found 1,000 ways that don't work." The famous author J.K. Rowling, whose Harry Potter manuscript was rejected by publishers 12 times before it was accepted. If she had given up after the first rejection, she would not have become one of the most successful writers in history. Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players in the world, once said, "I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career, lost more than 300 games, and failed to make game-winning shots countless times. I've failed over and over again, and that's why I succeed." How can we practically benefit from failure? White heavy checkmark change your perspective on failure. Don't treat it as a punishment, but as an opportunity to rethink and develop. White heavy checkmark ask yourself, what did I learn? After every failure, take time to analyze what happened. White heavy checkmark don't fear trying again. Success comes from continuous attempts, not from the first try. White heavy checkmark keep a lesson notebook. Write down every failure experience, what you learn from it, and how you will avoid the same mistake in the future. Conclusion: failure is not just an obstacle on the road to success, but the true teacher that prepares you for real success. Every time you fail, you become smarter, tougher, and more capable of succeeding in the future. If you want to become successful, don't run from failure. Welcome it as a necessary step in your journey. Failure builds resilience and patience within you. What is resilience, and why is it key to success? Resilience is the ability to rise after falling, to adapt to tough circumstances, and to find solutions despite obstacles. Failure is a challenge that forces us to develop this skill because it pushes us to face frustration, find new ways to try, and cope with the negative emotions that come with failure. People who have never faced failure are often less able to handle difficulties when they arise because they've never experienced what it means to fall and then rise again. On the other hand, those who have failed many times have learned how to control their emotions and keep moving forward even after setbacks. Why does failure teach us patience? In today's world, where everyone expects instant results, patience has become a rare skill. Failure reminds us that true success takes time and that great achievements don't happen overnight. When you fail to achieve something, you realize that you need to be patient, work smart, and be consistent until you reach your goal. Practical example. Imagine you're trying to build a new business, but you face rejection from clients, financial issues, or marketing challenges. If you lack patience, you might abandon the project quickly. But if you learn from failure, you will understand that every unsuccessful attempt brings you closer to the right solution, and you will continue refining your strategies until you find the best way to succeed. How does failure help us face future challenges? Every time you fail, you build mental muscles that make you more capable of dealing with future crises. When you face a new problem, you won't panic or feel frustrated easily because you've already gone through similar experiences and know how to overcome them. Example, successful entrepreneurs rarely succeed in their first business venture. Most of them go through a series of failed attempts before they hit on a successful idea. The difference between the person who succeeds in the end and the one who gives up is that the successful person learns how to turn failure into a lesson and continues despite the obstacles. How to develop resilience and patience through failure. White heavy checkmark, don't take failure personally. Failure is not evidence that you are incapable. It is a natural part of the learning process. White heavy checkmark, learn from your mistakes. Instead of feeling frustrated, use failure as a tool to analyze what you can improve. White heavy checkmark, focus on progress, not just results. Success is not only measured by the final outcome, but also by the improvement you make with every attempt. White heavy checkmark, practice reevaluation. If you don't succeed at something, it doesn't mean you are untalented or incapable. It might just mean you need to adjust your strategy or approach. Lessons from successful figures who learn patience from failure. Steve Jobs. He was fired from his own company, Apple, early in his career, but he didn't give up. He returned and turned it into one of the most successful companies in the world. Oprah Winfrey. She was fired from her job as a TV anchor at the beginning of her career and was told she wasn't fit for television, but she didn't give up and became one of the most successful media personalities. Elon Musk. His first companies failed, and the early rocket to SpaceX crashed, but he kept learning and developing until he achieved revolutionary accomplishments. Why does failure make you more patient and confident? When you go through tough experiences and learn how to handle them, you start to develop a more mature mindset. You realize that things don't always go as planned, but that doesn't mean giving up. Over time, you become calmer and face problems with confidence because you know that failure is not the end, but merely a pit stop on the road. Failure reveals your true weaknesses. How does failure help you know yourself more deeply? When you succeed in something, you might believe that you have all the skills and knowledge required. However, it is failure that reveals the true picture. It forces you to stop, analyze your performance, and recognize the areas that need improvement. Without failure, you might continue to work in the same way without realizing that there are weaknesses hindering your progress. Why don't we notice our weaknesses until failure occurs? When things are going smoothly, we don't feel the need for change or improvement. But when we face failure, we find ourselves compelled to reevaluate. Were our skills lacking? Did we use the wrong strategy? Did we have unrealistic expectations? Did we handle the challenges in the right way? How is failure a mirror of your abilities? Imagine you are a soccer player and believe you're good at shooting, but in an important match, you fail to score goals. This failure reveals that you have an issue with your shooting accuracy or decision-making under pressure. The same applies to any field in life. Failure is what makes you aware of your weaknesses, giving you the opportunity to fix them. Examples of how failure reveals weaknesses. 1. An entrepreneur fails to launch their first project. They may realize they lack marketing skills or didn't conduct proper market research. 2. A student fails an important exam. They may realize they weren't using effective study methods or need better time management. 3. A person trying to build a new habit but gives up quickly. They may notice they lack discipline or haven't set clear goals to help them persist. How to benefit from failure to improve yourself. White heavy checkmark, analyze failure objectively. Don't view failure as frustration, but as an opportunity to learn. Ask yourself what didn't work and why. White heavy checkmark, seek feedback from others. Sometimes it's hard to see our weaknesses ourselves, so ask people you trust for their opinion on your performance. White heavy checkmark, work on developing your skills. Once you recognize your weaknesses, create a clear plan to improve them, whether through learning, training, or trying new strategies. White heavy checkmark, don't fall into the trap of repeating the same mistakes. Failure is only useful if you learn from it. If you keep making the same mistakes, you haven't gained the full benefit from it. Why is failure a necessary step towards personal growth? When you realize your weaknesses, you get a golden opportunity to develop yourself. Failure forces you to change, rethink your approach, and improve your skills, making you stronger and more competent in the future. Without failure, you might remain stuck at a certain level without realizing you are capable of achieving more. Failure teaches you resilience and adaptability. Why does success require resilience? Success is not a straight path. It is filled with obstacles and challenges. It is impossible to reach your goal without facing difficulties or failures along the way. This is where failure plays a role. It is not just a negative experience, but an opportunity to develop one of the most important skills in life: resilience. How does failure force you to become more resilient? When you face failure, you have two options. Either give up and consider a sign that you are incapable, or adapt to it and look for new ways to move forward. Successful people do not reject failure. They use it as an opportunity to reevaluate, change strategies, and evolve in a smarter way. Adapting to failure. The difference between the successful and the unsuccessful. The fundamental difference between those who succeed and those who give up is not intelligence or talent, but the ability to handle failure in a positive way. When a successful person fails, they ask themselves, what can I learn from this? How can I adjust my strategy? What skills or knowledge do I need to develop? On the other hand, someone who gives up sees failure as evidence that they are incapable, feels discouraged, and stops trying. Examples of how failure builds your adaptability. 1. An entrepreneur faces financial losses. Instead of shutting down their business, they begin to search for new marketing strategies or adjust their business model to fit the market. 2. An athlete loses an important championship. Instead of thinking they are untalented, they review their performance, identify areas to improve, and come back stronger. 3. A student fails an exam. Instead of feeling discouraged, they change their study methods and try new techniques to improve their understanding. How can you develop your adaptability after failure? White heavy checkmark, change your mindset. Don't see failure as the end of the road, but as a new beginning full of learning. White heavy checkmark, try different strategies. If one approach doesn't work, don't resist. Try a different method until you find what works for you. White heavy checkmark, stay flexible with your goals. Sometimes you need to adjust your plan to reach the same goal, so don't be rigid about using only one method. White heavy checkmark, learn from others' experiences. Read about successful people who initially failed, but adapted to the circumstances and kept going until they succeeded. How does failure make you stronger in the long run? Each time you learn how to deal with failure, you become better equipped to face future challenges. You become less afraid of trying, more willing to experiment, and this brings you closer to success with every step you take. Failure helps you develop a growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset. What's the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset? The way you perceive failure plays a significant role in determining your future success. There are two types of mindsets that affect how we deal with challenges. 1. Fixed mindset. People with this mindset believe that their abilities and skills are fixed and cannot be developed. When they face failure, they feel discouraged and believe they are not good enough. For example, if a person with a fixed mindset fails in a project, they may think, I'm not smart enough for this, and stop trying. 2. Growth mindset. People with a growth mindset believe that failure is not a sign of incompetence, but an opportunity to learn and improve. When they face challenges, they ask themselves, how can I improve? Instead of giving up, they look for new ways to develop their skills and improve their performance. How does failure help you adopt a growth mindset? 1. It makes you realize that intelligence and skills can be developed when you fail at something. It doesn't mean you're incapable. It means you haven't acquired the necessary skills yet. Every failure gives you a chance to understand your weaknesses and work on improving them. 2. It enhances your curiosity to learn. People who see failure as a learning opportunity become more curious about how they can improve their performance. They start seeking new resources, trying different strategies, and learning from others' experiences. 3. It helps you embrace challenges rather than avoid them. If you fear failure, you're likely to avoid difficult tasks. But when you get used to failure as a natural part of growth, you become more willing to take on new challenges instead of fearing them. 4. It makes you more patient, and persistent A growth mindset teaches you that success is not instantaneous. It takes time and effort. Once you understand that skills develop with practice, you become more willing to continue, even if immediate results are not achieved. Examples of growth mindset in real life. Thomas Edison. After thousands of failed attempts to invent the light bulb, he said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Michael Jordan. He was cut from his high school basketball team, but didn't give up. Instead, he trained hard and became one of the greatest players in history. J.K. Rowling. Before achieving worldwide success with the Harry Potter series, her manuscript was rejected by 12 publishers, but she kept going until she succeeded. How can you develop a growth mindset after failure? White heavy checkmark. Instead of saying, "I'm bad at this," say, "I haven't learned how to master it yet." White heavy checkmark. Look for lessons in every failure and ask yourself, what can I do differently next time? White heavy checkmark. Accept criticism as an opportunity for improvement, not a personal attack. White heavy checkmark. Surround yourself with people who have a growth mindset, because your environment significantly impacts your way of thinking. How does a growth mindset become your path to success? All successful people share one thing in common. They don't see failure as an obstacle, but as a catalyst for growth. Once you start changing your way of thinking, you'll realize that success is not reserved for the talented, but is a direct result of perseverance and continuous learning. Failure puts you on the right path to real success. How can failure guide you toward success? Failure is not the end. It is simply a phase on the road to success. In fact, many successful people have faced numerous setbacks and challenges before reaching their goals. What sets them apart is their ability to learn from their failures and use them as motivation to move forward. Why is failure important in the success journey? 1. It reveals what doesn't work. Failure gives you the opportunity to discover what isn't working or where the gaps in your plans lie. Every failure is a reference point for you to evaluate your approach and ensure you're moving in the right direction. By identifying what went wrong, you can adjust your strategies and avoid making the same mistakes in the future. 2. It builds your resilience. Failure teaches you how to get back on your feet after falling. Success is not about achieving everything on the first try. It's about adapting challenges and handling difficulties better each time. The more you fail and learn from it, the stronger your ability to face future challenges becomes. 3. It guides you to the right path for you. Sometimes we think that our path to success is clear and defined, but failure forces us to think deeply, reorganize our priorities, and sometimes leads us to a new, more suitable path. When you fail in one area, you may discover hidden talents in another area you hadn't considered before, for it pushes you to develop new skills. Failure doesn't mean you lack the necessary skills. It indicates that you need to improve or acquire new ones. You may need to update your knowledge or completely change your strategies, which enhances both your personal and professional development. 5. It gives you a broader perspective. Failure makes us stop and reflect on our choices. By facing losses and defeats, we gain the ability to analyze situations more rationally. Over time, this helps us become wiser in making future decisions. Success stories through failure. Steve Jobs. He was ousted from the company he founded, Apple, but after years, he returned to lead it to become one of the most successful companies in the world. Had he not initially failed, he would not have had the chance to reinvent himself. Bill Gates, his first company, Trafo Data, failed to sell the product he believed would change the world. However, this failed experience was an important lesson that pushed him to continue and eventually create Microsoft, which became an empire. Henry Ford. He failed in many projects before founding the Ford Motor Company, which revolutionized the automobile industry. How to deal with failure and use it to your advantage. 1. Understand the cause of failure. Instead of dwelling on negative emotions, analyze the real reason behind your failure. Was it due to a lack of planning? Did you lack the necessary skills? Or were there external factors affecting you? 2. Start with a new plan. After identifying the cause, create a new plan. Don't repeat the same mistakes. Instead, use what you learned to develop a more effective approach to achieving your goals. 3. Don't avoid failure. Accept that failure is part of life and don't let it discourage you. Acknowledge that you will make mistakes along the way, but this doesn't mean you failed. These mistakes are valuable lessons that will bring you closer to success. 4. Focus on solutions. Instead of focusing on problems, start identifying possible solutions. Failure forces you to think creatively and focus on what can be done to improve the situation. 5. Stay optimistic. It's important to maintain a positive outlook after failure. Remember that every failure is a step toward success, and you're one step closer to your goal with every attempt. How failure helps you adapt to the future. Failure tests your ability to adapt. The world is changing rapidly, and it's important to be able to adjust your course when things aren't clear. Failure strengthens this ability, as it places you in situations where innovative thinking is required. Through this experience, you become better prepared to adapt to future changes. Conclusion: failure is not an obstacle on the road to success. It's an integral part of the journey. Every failure is one step closer to success, as it guides you, develops you, and makes you a better, more prepared person to face future challenges.